He couldn't see her face, but when she laughed, the world he ruled in darkness finally felt alive. Rain drummed against the glass like an impatient heartbeat. Inside Lorenzo's, the city's most exclusive restaurant, a hush spread each time the door opened, the kind of silence that followed power. At the corner table, Adrian Moretti sat perfectly still, his hand resting on his cane carved from ebony. His black suit was immaculate, his hair combed back with military precision. He didn't need to see the eyes on him. He could hear their curiosity in the way forks slowed, in how whispers rippled whenever someone passed. His date was 20 minutes late. "Would you like to order, sir?" the waiter asked, voice soft with pity. Adrian smiled, that sharp, unreadable curve that once made men confess their sins. "No. She'll come." His fingers brushed the edge of the untouched wineglass, feeling the condensation trace his skin. He had spent years commanding a world built on fear. Yet tonight, the most terrifying thing was the empty chair across from him. He wasn't used to being stood up. Not as a man. Not as a boss. Outside, thunder rolled. The scent of rain and exhaust bled through the half-open door. Across the city, Lena Alvarez juggled 2 paper bags of groceries while her 6-year-old twins, Emmy and Eli, splashed through puddles in their 2 small boots. The night was cold, and the twins' laughter was the only warmth she knew lately. "Mommy, I'm hungry." Eli whined. "I know, baby. Just a few more blocks." Lena's heart pounded with the guilt of a mother who had nothing left to promise. The diner she worked at had closed early, again. Rent was due tomorrow. Her savings were gone. The twins deserved more than noodles and apologies. When lightning cracked above, she flinched. A flash flood started to form on the corner. The nearest shelter she saw was a restaurant glowing with gold light and expensive silence. "Come on," she said, pulling them toward it. Back inside Lorenzo's, Adrian adjusted his cufflinks, the silence stretching longer than he could bear. His bodyguard, Rafe, leaned close. "She's not coming, boss." Adrian's jaw tightened. "I noticed." He exhaled slowly. The air around him thickened, humiliation mixing with the perfume of roses at the next table. Every nerve in his body screamed to leave. Yet his pride chained him to the chair. You can command armies, but not affection. The thought struck like a bullet. At that exact moment, the door burst open. "Sorry. We just need to stay until the rain stops." Lena half yelled, clutching her children as the host frowned at their soaked clothes. The twins wriggled free, running past velvet curtains and polished tables. "Kids, wait." Too late. Emmy collided with a chair leg, and water spilled across Adrian's table. A sharp gasp followed. The restaurant froze. "Oh God, I'm so sorry." Lena rushed forward, pulling her trembling daughter close. "We'll clean it up, sir, please." But Adrian only tilted his head slightly. His unseeing eyes lifted toward the sound of her voice. "It's just water," he said softly. Lena blinked, confused. Most people reacted with anger, not calm. "I'll pay for any damage." "I didn't see." He smiled faintly. "Neither did I." The twins giggled, not understanding. Adrian turned his head toward them. "And who do I have the pleasure of meeting?" "Emmy and Eli," they said in unison. "Ah. Brave names," he murmured. "I could use some bravery tonight." Lena hesitated, noticing the white cane beside his chair. Realization softened her features. "I'm sorry we disturbed you, sir. We'll wait by the door." But his voice, deep and steady, stopped her. "If you leave now, they'll be cold. Sit. Have dessert. My treat." Her pride warred with practicality. The twins' eyes lit up at the word dessert. "Mommy, please." Emmy whispered. Lena finally nodded. "Just until the rain stops." Adrian smiled, gesturing to the empty chairs opposite him, the same seats that had waited for someone else. For a moment, the tension in the restaurant shifted. What had begun as pity turned into curiosity. As Lena helped the twins climb up, Adrian asked, "Tell me, what does rain look like tonight?" She paused, surprised by the question. "Like silver strings. Falling too fast for tired hearts." He chuckled quietly. "That sounds beautiful." For the first time that night, he didn't feel alone. If you were Adrian, proud, powerful, and suddenly vulnerable. Would you have let strangers sit with you, or would you have walked away? Let me know what you'd do in the comments. The storm outside raged on, painting the city in streaks of silver and shadow. Inside Lorenzo's, time felt slower, softer, the kind of quiet that carried meaning. Adrian sat straighter as the waiter approached, hesitant. "Sir, would you like me to bring 3 of your best desserts?" Adrian said before Lena could protest. "And hot chocolate for the twins." Lena opened her mouth to refuse, but the twins' wide eyes stopped her. She sighed, brushing Emmy's damp curls behind her ear. "You really don't have to, Mr. Adrian," he interrupted. "Just Adrian." There was a gentleness in his tone, unexpected from a man whose name whispered through the city's underworld like a warning. The waiter returned with a tray of molten chocolate cakes, their scent wrapping the table in warmth. Adrian listened intently as forks clinked and tiny giggles filled the space where silence had once lived. "You have beautiful children," he said, his voice careful, as though every word carried weight. Lena smiled faintly. "They're my whole world. And my chaos." He chuckled. "Chaos keeps the world interesting." Eli piped up between mouthfuls. "Mister, how come your eyes don't move like other people's?" Lena froze. "Eli." But Adrian only smiled. "Because they got tired of seeing too much." The boy tilted his head. "Does that mean you can't see Mommy's pretty dress?" Adrian's lips curved. "No, but I can hear the kindness in her voice. And that might be better." Lena's heart skipped. No one had said anything like that to her in years. As they ate, something invisible began to shift, a fragile bridge forming between two worlds that should never have touched. Lena studied him quietly. The way his fingers traced the edge of his glass before sipping. The way he seemed to listen to the air itself. His composure wasn't arrogance. It was control born from necessity. "Do you come here often?" she asked, mostly to fill the space between their breaths. He tilted his head, amused. "No. I usually dine where people don't stare." Her gaze dropped. "They're staring at us now." "Yes," he said simply. "But for once, I don't mind." There was no flirtation in his voice, just honesty. The kind that startled her because it sounded like longing. When the twins finished their cakes, Emmy leaned toward him. "Can you tell stories?" Adrian chuckled. "I used to. But I've forgotten the happy ones." "Then we'll tell you one," she said, climbing off her chair and running to his side. "Once upon a time, there was a man who lost his eyes but found a magic heart instead." Lena laughed softly, covering her mouth. Adrian turned his face toward the sound, memorizing the shape of her joy through its echo. "That's a good story," he said, voice lower now. "Does it have an ending?" "Not yet," Emmy said proudly. "He still has to find his friends." Something in Adrian's chest twisted, a memory, maybe, of the loneliness that came after his accident. Lena noticed the faint tremor in his hand as he adjusted his cane. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded, forcing a smile. "Just remembering." She wanted to ask more, but the heaviness in his voice stopped her. There were ghosts behind those calm eyes, and she wasn't sure she had the right to touch them yet. The waiter returned quietly. "Sir, your car is ready when you are." Adrian turned his face toward the sound, but his attention stayed on Lena. "You don't have a ride, do you?" Her eyes widened. "How did you?" "Your shoes squeak when you walk. Worn soles. You came in from the rain." Lena hesitated, defensive pride flaring. "We're fine, really." "Let me drive you," he said gently. "The twins shouldn't walk home in this weather." She shook her head. "I can't accept that." "Then think of it as repayment. For ruining my very tragic dinner." That drew a laugh from her despite herself. "You're impossible." "So I've been told." Outside, the storm began to ease. Adrian stood, leaning on his cane, every movement deliberate. He offered his arm toward the direction of her voice. Lena hesitated, then placed her hand lightly in his. His touch was steady, firm but uncertain, like someone rediscovering the act of trust. As they walked out, heads turned. The feared blind boss leaving arm in arm with a waitress and two giggling children. It was a sight no one in the city could have imagined. The twins splashed through puddles, laughing as lightning flashed. Adrian paused, listening. That sound, he murmured. It's freedom. Lena smiled, watching him stand beneath the rain like he could feel the world again. When the car door shut behind them, a comfortable silence filled the space. The twins leaned against each other, already half asleep. Adrian turned slightly toward Lena. It's strange, he said. I came here tonight to be seen. And somehow I was, by the last people I expected. She met his blind gaze. Maybe that's how fate works. Do you believe in fate? She thought about it. I used to. Then life happened. He smiled sadly. Maybe tonight was life trying to apologize. Lena stared out the window as the city lights blurred through the rain. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about tomorrow. Do you think fate brings people together for a reason, or is it all coincidence? Tell me what you believe in the comments. The following week passed like a strange echo in both their lives. For Adrian, every morning began the same: the sharp scent of espresso, the rustle of silk curtains drawn open by Rafe, and the endless calls from men who only spoke to him in whispers. But somewhere between orders and silence, he found himself listening for something that didn't belong: a child's laugh, a woman's voice that steadied his world without even trying. He didn't like distractions. Distractions made men in his business week. And yet, she lingered in his mind like the soft hum of a lullaby he'd forgotten the words to. Lena's week, on the other hand, was chaos. The diner was short-staffed again. The twins were restless. And her heart, her foolish, reckless heart, kept returning to the memory of that night. The way Adrian had listened to her, like her words were music. The way he'd smiled at the twins, with no judgment, no pity. She'd told herself it meant nothing. He was a stranger. A rich one, at that, the kind of man who belonged in another universe. But when a black car stopped outside the diner on Friday evening, she knew fate had other plans. Rafe stepped out first, opening the door for Adrian. The rain had just started again, light, steady, familiar. "Good evening, Lena," Adrian said, his voice warm but unsure, as though he didn't know if he was crossing a line. "Adrian," she stammered, wiping her hands on her apron. "What are you doing here? I owed you a dinner that didn't involve spilled water and awkward stares." She laughed softly. "You don't owe me anything." "Then let's call it gratitude. For saving me from the world's worst evening." Lena hesitated. "I can't just leave work." Rafe handed her a white envelope. "Already spoke to your boss," he said with a half smile. "He's giving you the night off." Her heart raced. The gesture was too much, too sudden, but the look on Adrian's face wasn't one of arrogance. It was hope. They went to a quiet bistro on the city's edge, far from his usual haunts. The kind of place where no one whispered about power or bloodlines. The air smelled of basil and rain. Adrian sat across from her, his cane resting by his chair. "You sound nervous," he said gently. "Do I?" He smiled. "Your voice keeps skipping. Like you're trying not to laugh or run." Lena exhaled. "It's just. I've never done this. Not since the twins' father left." Adrian tilted his head. "He left you?" "Yeah. Said he wasn't ready for family. Turns out, he wasn't ready for responsibility either." Silence followed, thick with unspoken empathy. Adrian's fingers brushed the edge of his glass. "When I lost my sight," he said quietly, "the woman I loved left too. Said she couldn't bear watching me fall apart." Lena frowned. "Did you?" He shook his head. "No. I built an empire instead. Because it was easier to be feared than pitied." Their voices softened. Two confessions from opposite ends of pain, finally meeting in the middle. As dinner went on, the air between them grew heavier, not from awkwardness, but from something real. Adrian's words were slow and deliberate, each one a piece of the man behind the myth. Lena found herself watching the small things: how he angled his face toward sound, how his fingers twitched when the waiter poured wine, how he relaxed when she spoke softly. "You're not what I expected," she said finally. He chuckled. "Dangerous words." "No," she whispered. "Beautiful ones." The silence that followed was charged, not romantic yet, but fragile, full of possibility. When the twins woke up the next morning, Lena's mind was still at that candlelit table. But the real world never waited for dreams. She had bills, shifts, and lunches to pack. She was halfway to work when her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Lena Alvarez? Yes. This is Rafe. Adrian wanted to invite you and the twins to his house this Sunday. There's a garden they might enjoy. A garden? Yes, ma'am. He said you'd understand. She almost said no. But something deep inside whispered that maybe, for once, she could say yes without fear. Sunday came bathed in sunlight. Adrian's estate was nothing like she imagined, not cold or sterile but alive. Roses bloomed near the gates, and the sound of running water carried through the courtyard. Adrian stood waiting, cane in hand, his posture straighter than usual. The twins ran ahead, gasping at the size of the place. They're faster than my security, he joked. Lena smiled. They don't know what rules are. Neither do I, he admitted quietly. They walked together through the garden. Adrian traced the petals of a rose with his fingers. Rafe tells me they're red. I don't remember red anymore. Lena's voice softened. It's the color of warmth. And courage. He turned his head toward her. Then it suits you. Her breath caught, and for a moment, neither spoke. The air was thick with something unspoken, an ache too gentle to name. As the twins played by the fountain, Lena noticed a scar along Adrian's jaw, half hidden by stubble. That from before you lost your sight? She asked. He nodded. A reminder of the last thing I saw. What was it? A fire. One I caused. The words hung heavy between them. He didn't elaborate, and she didn't press, but in that silence, she saw him clearer than any headline ever could. She reached out and touched his hand, just once, just long enough to say I see you too. Adrian didn't move. But for the first time in years, he felt something loosen inside his chest, a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. If you were Lena, would you risk getting close to a man like Adrian, someone feared by many but kind to you? Or would you walk away to protect your peace? Tell me in the comments. For days after the visit, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that her life had changed in ways too quiet to name. She'd gone from worrying about rent to waking up to a single text that made her heart race. Adrian, did the twins enjoy the roses? Every morning, he wrote something small. Every night, she replied. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was belonging. And for Adrian, it was everything he'd forgotten existed. The sound of her laughter on the phone. The way the twins shouted "Good night, Mr. Adrian," before bed. The way she didn't treat him like a broken man or a criminal, just a person trying to find light in the dark. Rafe noticed, of course. Boss, you're smiling more. That's dangerous. Adrian smirked. Maybe I'm tired of being dangerous. But the world he lived in didn't forgive softness. On Friday morning, a headline hit every newsstand. Blind Mafia kingpin linked to new investigation. Adrian didn't read it, but the tremor in Rafe's voice when he reported it said enough. By noon, Lena had seen it. The man who'd bought her children dessert, who'd listened like no one else, was the same name whispered in every corner of the city. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the article. There it was, Adrian Moretti, former heir to the Moretti crime syndicate, now suspected of laundering funds through charity fronts. Charity fronts. Was that what his donations to the children's shelter were? The phone rang. His name lit up the screen. She stared at it until it stopped. That evening, Adrian waited at the same restaurant where they'd first met. The air was heavy with memory. The sound of the door opening made his heart leap, but it wasn't Lena. It was Rafe. She's not coming, he said softly. Adrian clenched his jaw. Tell me why. She read the paper. A pause. I told you this would happen, Rafe continued. You can't mix the life you built with the peace you're trying to borrow. Adrian gripped his cane. It wasn't borrowed. Rafe's sigh was heavy. Then prove it. Change it. Lena sat on her couch, the twins asleep beside her, their drawings of Adrian scattered across the table. One of them had written "The man who can see with his heart." She wanted to believe that. God, she wanted to. But fear whispered louder. What if the world he came from swallowed her children? What if his kindness was a mask? Her phone buzzed again. Adrian, I know what you read. I won't deny who I was. But please, let me explain who I am now. Her thumb hovered over delete. Then she typed back. I can't do this, Adrian. My kids deserve safety. I can't let them near danger, no matter how kind you've been. He called instantly. She almost didn't answer. But then she heard his voice, rough, breaking. Lena, please. You think I don't know what danger looks like? I am what I spent my life fearing. But I'd never let that touch you. Tears burned her eyes. That's the problem, Adrian. You can't promise that. The world you come from, it doesn't let people like us stay untouched. There was silence. Only his breath, shaky and real. Then, softly, I just wanted to be seen. And for once, I thought I was. Her heart cracked. You were. You still are. But love doesn't always mean safety. The line went dead. Adrian didn't sleep that night. He sat in his office, the city humming below, his cane resting across his knees. For years, power had been his armor. Now, it felt like a cage. He thought about her, about how she described the rain, the color of red, the sound of her twins laughing. Those memories became his ghosts. Rafe entered quietly. Boss, we got word. They're moving in on the accounts tomorrow. You'll need to disappear for a while. Adrian turned his sightless gaze toward the window. No. I'm done running. Adrian. I built this life to prove I could survive blindness. But all it ever made me was blind in different ways. Rafe hesitated. What do you plan to do? Adrian stood, steady despite the tremor in his hands. Burn it down. Every deal. Every name. Every shadow that keeps me from her. Rafe swallowed hard. That means losing everything. Adrian smiled faintly. Then maybe I'll finally have something worth keeping. The next day, the news broke again, not of crime, but confession. Adrian Moretti had turned over every document, every contact, dismantling his empire piece by piece. No plea bargains. No excuses. He didn't do it for redemption in the world's eyes. He did it because the woman who saw his heart deserved a man who wasn't afraid to use it. When Lena saw the headline, her breath caught. Former Mafia boss cooperates with authorities, shutting down syndicate operations. For a long moment, she couldn't move. Then Emmy tugged at her sleeve. Mommy, look. He's on TV. Lena stared at the image, Adrian, handcuffed but unbroken, stepping into a police car beneath the same rain that once brought them together. And for the first time since that night, she didn't feel fear. She felt hope. Would you believe someone could truly change for love, even if their past was filled with darkness? Or do you think some people can never escape who they were? Tell me what you think in the comments. Thank you for staying with this story to the very end. If the story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you'll never miss the next story of healing, hope, and unexpected love.